What you see in this situation is that we have a laundry room. Yeah, and in this laundry room we have some space that hasn't been used properly. But one of the things that is a frustrating situation for anybody, including me, is the space that is behind the machines, right? You need to leave some space, obviously, because you have the duct work, you have all the connections and the water lines and all that. And for that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a nice shelf over here, taking advantage of this little wall. We're going to create a nice shelf in the back. And this shelf is going to be made so actually we have just a tiny little space between the machines and the shelf, so that way the stuff, the items that we have on top or whatever we're cleaning or whatever, they will not fall on the back, because it's really hard, especially with these flown loaded machines that are set on some stands, to get to the back of that, especially if you're elder. And the other side, we're gonna have this shelf over here, this space over here with some adjustable shelves. Now, because we don't want to be intrusive, we don't want to damage the walls, we want to make sure that we leave those base moldings alone. So for that, we're going to create a base. There's going to be slightly on top of the base molding, and from there we're going to seat our new cabinet. So the new cabinet is going to be there. It's going to be an open new cabinet that is going to have perforations on the sides and perforations on the back, so we have good support. And the shelves themselves, since they're going to be adjustable, they're going to have a nice piece of wood on the top to avoid that arcing that sometimes happens, the concaving that sometimes happens when you have long spans. So our box is going to go as high as this door stopper, and it's going to be there, and on top it's going to have an extra shelf. So let's start by doing all the cuts. So really take some measurements, make sure that you leave a little bit of a space so you can put your new piece of cabinet inside without damaging the walls. The next step, once you have the walls for your big cabinet, is to put this type of veneer tape or veneer edging. Now, if you notice, the regular plywood has some layers of wood, and that's what is, that's what is made like that. Obviously, with the nice, in this case, nice and finished surface. But then we want to make sure that we finish those edges, and the edges are the ones that we have here. So they come in rolls like that. And what we're gonna do is this is the tape, and the tape, the wood tape, it comes with some glue in the back that actually works with heat. And for that, once you measure the piece that you want to go ahead and use a regular iron, like a regular, this is an expensive iron. What you do is you put it in high, and then you start, pretty much ironing this piece on top until you get the tape to stay on it. Now, one important thing is that this tape comes just a little bit wider than the 3/4 plywood. Obviously, if you use 1/2 inch, will be way smaller, but in this case, the 3/4 plywood, and that is because you want to have some room to play with this. But after that, normally what I do is that I put it nicely in one edge, and I trim the other edge, and after that I do some sanding. So that's what we're going to do on the 3 and the actually 4 pieces that we're going to use to create this cabinet. So it will be exposed. Now remember that the shelving that we're going to do is going to have some real wood in the front, so it's not going to need this type of tape. This is just for the perimeter of our cabinet. Okay. Now there's the part of the perforation. This is the part of the perforation of the walls. In this case, we're going to use the same perforations on the back and on the top. Now what you see, there's a piece of pegboard that I cut it for this type of purpose. That blue tape over there is just giving me a guide, so I don't perforate all the way to the bottom, because it doesn't make sense to have, like perforations all the way to the end, knowing that sections are going to have shelves that low. So I'm going to start, you can start from like 6 inches from the floor, then moving up from that point. So the idea with this thing, and I show these things in other videos, that we're going to use this 1/4 inch pin to support the shelves, right? That pegboard, the holes are 1/4 inch. This drill bit is a 1/4 inch, and it has a stopper. The stopper with a little Allen key, you can calculate the perforation depth, so meaning that I'm adding the thickness of the board plus 1/2 inch on the 3/4 plywood, so we can actually sit this once it goes in correctly. It's going to have it in the 3 areas, and I'm just going to move it to the other side, doing the same thing on over here, meaning that I'm going to have space of 6 inches, and then the perforations. So that's how we're going to continue. And then I just show you after we do all these little holes. Now that we are working on the shelves, we're going to make 4 shelves. And as you remember, on the cabinets we have 2 holes on one side, 2 holes on the other side, and 2 more holes in the back. These are to support on the cabinet itself, but on the front I don't want to run with the situation of not having enough support and having the front of the shelves concave and arcing on me. So for that I'm going to use this 2.5 inch fine piece of pine, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it right in the front. We're going to use glue. Definitely when you're working in cabinetry, I always recommend to use glue as much as possible. Obviously don't exaggerate the amount of glue. So I'm just going to put a small vein in the middle, and after that what we're going to do is we're going to work with a pneumatic gun. This is an 16 gauge straight pneumatic gun with 2-inch nails. So I'm going to use this one, and after that we're going to cover the little holes with some spackling and sand it and paint it as the rest of the stuff that we're painting. So let's continue. Okay, so once you have the width of the shelving, meaning up to here, so you measured, you deduct the 3/4 of an inch of this fine pine. If you notice, this pine doesn't have no nuts or anything like that. That is because this pine is some sort of like cabinetry grade or furniture grade. Make sure that you get something that has no nuts if you don't want to go through the hassle of having the stain of the sap coming out of the grooves and staining your paint. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of some putty over here, some vinyl spackling, and I'm gonna sand it down and put primer on it. Now we have a base. Now we have a base that is kind of sitting there on the floor without any type of fasteners. The idea in this case is that we don't want to be intrusive with the moldings and whatever's holding the linoleum in this case, this vinyl flooring. We also made a hole on our cabinet to kind of host this outlet. And the next thing that you want to do is, if possible, find the studs. I have this stud finder. So what we do is that we mark the walls, whatever we consider that they are. We make a little test before we run it, and we determine that the studs are behind there. So there's an important thing to have in consideration is that the screws that you're going to use, the fasteners, can't be too long. The situation is that you may compromise something behind the walls. Let's say you can have water lines, electric lines, communication lines, ductwork, plumbing, sewer, fresh hot and cold water behind the wall. So there's plenty of stuff that you will want to go through. So that's why only consider about 1 inch going inside the studs so you don't compromise anything that is there. Obviously, just make sure that you don't have things that will be compromised because it can cause you a lot of issues. So let's start by marking whatever the studs are, and then we pass that information inside the cabinet so we can make the perforations the way we need it. Okay, so well, now finally you can see installed. What can I say? If you notice now that the shelves are installed there, you saw how we built this place, how we built this cabinet outside. So it's not like you need a ton of equipment to do it. As long as you cut it precisely, you can actually have the same results. And this is nothing that you need heavy skills to do it. But anyway, always remember we install we put 6 screws, 2 and 2 on the bottom on the studs. You want to make sure that you find those studs before anything. And also one more thing that is really crucial is that those holes, if you notice how straight they are and how lined up they are, is because they were measured when we were working with a little pegboard properly, and I was careful with that because that will, if you're off in that, you have a lot of problems with the alignment of your shelves. But anyway, you can move them and place them. You want to make sure that they're not completely how can I say, tight against rubbing that. So you want to give a little bit of a space for them to wiggle there. But that's it. We're gonna put the shelf over here, like we said before. That shelf is gonna be just right above this when we finish. But we're gonna put a little support, and you can see here some of the supports that we made, and we're gonna use always. I recommend you to use the proper screws. You know, you may want to put other type of screws, but the problem is that these are stainless steel screws, 2-inch screws, like we said before. You want to make sure that you don't go through piping or whatever. And this one will not rust in an area like our laundry room. So, common sense. I'm gonna make you a little video clip at the end, but this is it. So, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you're one of my subscribers, I always thank you for watching my videos. I love to share all my knowledge, and there is always room to learn more. So don't think that I know everything. I always love to learn more from people. So I appreciate comments. If you want me to make other type of videos or something like that, just let me know. Put some comments there, and I would like to just help you out with something that you may have a question with. Well, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.